early afternoon wherever you are. Good evening if you're here in Paris. It is very windy. Hope you guys are all having a good day. We'll give everybody a minute or two to get in here and then we'll get going. This is partially a walk we did, I think, 2 years ago. Hi, Chrissy. But I wanted to come back and do it because today is a very significant day and where we're going to end. And also, we did it with Kate. And so this time I get to do it. And does anybody guess where we are? Hi, Jean. Thanks for being here today. People are taking a photo, looking up. We guessed the end of. I'll show you up there. Boom. There she is. Liberty lighting the world, as she should be called. And it is a gorgeous day. It's not very well, it's like 75 degrees and but so windy. My apartment was just, I have skylights, and so my skylights were going, just getting a beating. But I'm down here at the end of the little island known as Ilos Seigneur, the Swan Island, which is funny because back in Portland we had something that was called Swan Island, and that's where all of the distributors and UPS and all those guys would be. This one's very different. But we're starting down here because this is where the Lady Liberty is. And of course, the one that's in New York. She's actually facing west, so she's facing towards New York. But this isn't where she was actually facing the other direction when she was put in here. And I'm sure you all know the story of Liberty, but I think a lot of people don't know the backstory. So Bartholdi, he had gone down to Egypt in 1855. He went back down again in 1869, and when he was there, he was just blown away by all of these monumental statues. So like the Sphinx and the pyramids and everything, he was just completely blown away. Hi, Angela. And he decided he wanted to do something much like that as well. We'll go down a little bit, show you some of the around here. And so he decided he wanted to do something much like that as well. So he first had this idea, and so he goes back down in 1869 and proposes to them where they're building the canal. And he said for the Suez Canal, and he says, "Oh, I have this big statue I'm going to make, and it's called Egypt Carrying the Light to the World, and it's going to be right here, and you could have it, and she could be like a lighthouse, because her arm will be raised, and she'll have this light. And I think this is a great idea, and I'll give her to you, and you just need to pay me." And they were like, "No, messy." So they basically told him that they didn't need it, and so he was kind of bummed out about the whole thing and came back to Paris. And a little while later, he was at a dinner party, and a gentleman named Edward Laboulaye was there. And he had made a bust of Laboulaye. And they were having this big dinner party. And it was a bunch of different people that were like Franco American, they're really into anything in America. And they wanted to do a special statue or something that they were going to give. Originally, it was just going to be a medal to give to Mary Todd Lincoln, because this is, of course, after the death of Abraham. And so they thought, we'll make this special thing. And so he started talking to him and telling him about this statue that he had created that he wanted to do. And why not that? That would be a good idea. And so they thought, well, let's look into this, and we got to figure out how we're going to pay for it. So they raised a bunch of money, and the state ended up giving a bunch of money for it. And so Bartholdi goes to New York, and he finds a place where they're going to build this and put the statue. and finally found a place. But New York was going to have to be the one that had to pay for the base of it. And his original idea of the base was going to be what looked like kind of like the front of a ship, and you'd walk inside of it, and they'd have all these like little scenes and everything in it. And you could see that actually at the Art Métier museum that's here in Paris. There's a replica of it. And that's obviously not what was created. And so, but they wanted to have this done in 1876, and it took 10 years for it to be finished, which, of course, I mean, it's huge. And not only that, but there's two of my favorite, an engineer and an architect that were involved in it. So first, Viollet-le-Duc, he was brought in and he helped do the inner structure of what was for the head and for the arm. And then he died. And so Gustave Eiffel came in. Gustave Eiffel ended up being a part of it, and he's the one who kind of helped create that whole inner structure that holds it all up together. There's this cool little workout area down here with all these like machines that are kind of just put into the ground. You can see her from up here. She's obviously much smaller than the one in New York, but she's a one of eight. There's actually eight Statue of Liberties here in Paris. Look at this. Look at this thing doing the drone picture here. But look at how beautiful it is today. I was just sitting there before we started at the very end. The water, I'm sure my hair, it's a whole nother story. So we're kind of here. We're on the, this is the 15th. So we're kind of on the far edge of what people think of as Paris. Just the buildings out here, a lot of these are businesses and quite a few apartments. It is, it's in, they're doing a lot of work on it right now, Angela. It's not, and it's kind of a mess right now because we're just 2 days after 14 Juillet. So I'm sure there was thousands of people here watching the fireworks or during the day. Now this part said it was closed off, but we're going to go anyway because it looks fine. And you can see Lady Liberty over there, or Eiffel Tower. Hey, look, isn't it a beautiful day? You have all the TV and radio down here too. The TF1 and the Radio France, where my friend Cantan works. The next bridge over there, that is just a for the metro in the area. But yeah, they're doing a ton of work. The walkway is really torn up right now. But the end of it looks like they're putting these new pieces in on the side, and then it looks like they're redoing the whole bottom of it too. But the Statue of Liberty has all sorts of symbols on it because it's the, her crown of the 7 spikes represent the 7 continents of the world. And she's holding the tablet, which represents law. The one that's here in France has a different date. The one in the US, of course, has the 4th of July. The one here has, depending on which one you see, they have the dates of when it was inaugurated. So you'll see 3 different dates as you go around Paris and find all of these. But when she was put here on the island in 1889, she first faced the other direction. She was facing Élysée, where the president lived. And then in 1937, they turned her around. So she was facing west towards her big sister. And that's what actually Bartholdi wanted. And Bartholdi, where he got a lot of his inspiration for it, was from Liberty Leading the People. That's right, Mr. Delacroix. So he'd go into the Louvre and he'd see the painting of Liberty with her right arm extended, holding the tricolor, and he thought, hey, that looks like a good pose. They have a fun little place over there. There's a lot of the cruise ships. I have a lot of clients that come that are here for a couple days, and they're doing like a Vikings cruise or something like that. And those, most of them all dock down here. So you can see on one of the ships, there were some people on top of it. But so if you are doing one of those, you'll be down here. But you can see, hi Sharon. Look at how beautiful that one is. And this is just the transport. So a lot of this, so this whole island that we're on, the Ilocena, is man-made. So the first part of it was built because they did these bridges, and so they were kind of just built up from dikes that had formed in the middle of the river, and then they decided to extend it out. And it was first done in 1825 to build these bridges. And the first bridge, the Grinnell Bridge, it's in the back of us. You had to actually pay a toll to even walk across it. It was 5 centimes per person to go across it, or it was 1 centime for each animal you had. So if you were bringing across your cows or your pigs, which people would do back then, you'd also have to pay for them. So when that bridge, it was destroyed, it got hit actually in 1918 by a German bomb. And then a new one was built in 1968. So they completely demolished the whole thing. And a new one was built. And then that's when they decided to the entire island. Let's see, you can see all the work they're kind of doing here. It's always usually pretty quiet down here. It's got some great little signs about the trees and things in the river. But it got the name, look who's up there. It got the name, the Swan Island, because a little farther down, closer to where the Pont Alexander Trois is, there was a kind of a small little offshoot. It was kind of a little bit of an island, but it was really just maybe one giant leap from shore to jump onto this island. And Louis XIV was given 40 swans from Denmark. And these swans were having all sorts of little swan eggs. And they were, food eggs. And they said that the people couldn't eat them fast enough because they were laying so many of them. And they ended up having to take most of the swans out. They took some to Versailles, and then some of them just stayed here. But they tried to separate it, so they separate the male ones from the female ones. And we still have a couple swans, here today in Paris, which is always fun to see. I've seen as many as 5 together. It's usually you see 2, and they're more in the center near the Pont des Arts. Look at how pretty this is. And so you can see here where they've been redoing all of this. But isn't it a beautiful day? We are not getting the heat that Europe, my friend in Rome, she is cooking. It's in the 40s there, so well over 100 to about 100 and close to 110 degrees. And they are closing like the Parthenon and a bunch of other things. But this week, the next 2 days, we're going to be in the low 80s. And then the whole rest of the week for like the next 9 days, were in the 70s. So I'm not in any way unhappy about it. I'm pretty happy about it. The sea, look at how it's huge. Oops. Nope, don't do that. But we're going to come up here to a site where what I'm hoping they're doing some work for an event. It's going to be around where we end tomorrow. And part of it I don't think we can get very close to, but we're going to try. Oh, so nice. But this whole island was created in 1878. And so they did it for the 1900 World's Fair. It was actually a little bit wider. And they put all these buildings on it. So all these temporary buildings that, of course, nothing, as you could tell, remains, which most of the stuff from those exhibitions, the World's Fairs, none of that stuff remains, except for a few places like the Petit Palais, Grand Palais, and of course, Madame Eiffel. But it was kind of a bummer that they destroyed all those. Every time I see sketches and lithographs of that period of time, I'm like, oh, bring those buildings back. Look at just so beautiful today. Well, we're gonna head up here to one of the most famous little spots. So, did anybody, when I said the name La Willy, think, oh, I know that name from National Treasure? And truth be told, I love that movie. And this is the Bir Hakeim Bridge. And the Bir Hakeim Bridge has something to do with that. It got the name is from a 1942 battle that was in Libya, the Battle of Bir Hakeim. And so it is a really, really beautiful bridge. And you see it in Inception, you see it in National Treasure. You have these really amazing, these points on the pillars, these sculptures um, that are I know I do love it, Chrissy. And they're blacksmiths, and then they're also around the seal of Paris and the seal of Nantes. You can see them a little bit better here. Here you have the FR for the French Republic. But in National Treasure, they use this bridge. And if you know it and you watch it, or watch it again today, you'll say, that's not right. Because they have to come here because they're looking for, this is where they find out that they need to go to London for the Resolute death. And so they come here because they're La Boulay, and they're on this bridge, and they're playing with a drone. But they make it so this bridge is the one that's right behind the Statue of Liberty. And now that's not exactly true. Look at that view. So I know Crystal comes out here all the time for photo shoots. There looks like a little wedding photo shoot happening. And another photo shoot. But what I love about it is one of my favorite figures is on this bridge, and most people don't know this is her. There's a little 27th of May to the 11th of June, 1942. But this gal up here, that is Jeanne d'Arc, Joan of Arc. And when this was created and first given to Paris, they didn't want it because she looked too much like she was going to war. Usually, she's wearing her chainmail, she's wearing a helmet, she's like charging off into battle, and people thought that was, it was just looked a little too aggressive. So this one is it's called the French with Resistance. So they had to change the name of it. It was actually a gift from a Danish artist named Holger Wernicke in 1930. It was given to Paris in 1948, and it did not come out here for 30 years. It was not put on display until 1978. Isn't that ridiculous? Because they thought she was too wary. But now she's here. But most people really don't know that's her. And if you look at the bottom, you do definitely see a fleur de lis there, which is definitely a symbol of her. And I love her. She's one of my favorites. But look where she's looking. So this is a big spot. People love to come and get their pictures taken. So we have another little photo shoot going on over there. But the bridge, when they built it, and then they later added this whole top piece up here. So the viaduct was added in 1903 at the top. And this is one of the best views to see to be in the metro. And this is one of the best views because most of the metro, goes underground. But this one just comes right by here. Here's all the guys selling the Eiffel Towers. They're actually very nice guys. Crystal tells me, because she's at the Trocadero just about every morning doing photo shoots, and her husband, who is the friendliest person in the world, has become friends with all of them. And they've had times where if somebody comes and like steals their client's bag and runs off, and these little guys will go running after them and chase them down and grab them and get their stuff back. And they're all just actually really, really nice guys. So if they are trying to sell things to you, just say no merci and walk on. They're all good. They're all good people. But you can see how this is a popular little spot here. It looks right at the Eiffel Tower, and all the boats and everything is so crazy busy right now. It does seem to quiet down a tiny bit just because so many French people are leaving. So many of the Parisians are actually leaving Paris at this time. Ooh, lavender. See? Isn't she amazing? She's charging off. You just see it says on there 1930. He signed it in 1930. I do love all the bridges. I'm doing a tour on Tuesday where I'm taking people for 3 hours to look at the bridges. And so we'll just start. We only could get to about 10 of the 37, but I'll start on one and we'll walk across it and then we'll go down the river and then we'll walk across the other bridge and on and on and on. Because I do love all the bridges and each one of them is so unique. How iconic is that photo? How many times have you seen that? These great boats. I don't know about living on one of those though. Okay, so what we're going to try, we'll try to go over here. But it was, if you guys follow me on Instagram or Facebook, make sure to go see the video I made and posted from Friday morning. I went to go see the planes and the jets. I went down to the edge of the Louvre and watched them fly right over my head, which was the coolest thing ever. And then security was really, really high because they had those riots a couple weeks ago. There really hasn't been any in Paris itself for well over 2 weeks, and they're pretty hit and miss around outside of Paris. But they so security was really, really tight on the Champs-Elysees. So I didn't want to try to get over there, but I found the most amazing thing ever. So afterwards, I was going to go up to the Galeries Lafayette because they have a special installation in the very middle of underneath the stained glass dome dedicated to my Christian Louison, who I love. So I was going to go up there and see that. And then I started seeing all of these men in uniform. And so I went that direction. And that was where they were disbanding. So they'd walk down the Champs-Elysees to the Place de la Concorde, and then we're gonna give this a shot. And then they would go to the Grand Boulevard. So they go to the Madeleine and take a right to the Boulevard de Capucine, and that's where all of their buses and everything were parked. So they were still in formation, and some of them were singing like the Marseillaise and chanting. And they were so close to me. At one point, I had to move a little because I almost got whacked in the head by one of the guy's shoulders. Um, but it was so cool. And now that's what I'm going to do next year. I'm just going to go to the Madeleine, right there at the edge of the Madeleine, and just sit there and wait because you got way closer. So go check out all the videos. Because it was really, really cool. Okay, so this park up here, this is the Square de la Place des Métiers des Jeux de Valadon Hiver. And the reason why we're coming here is because today is the anniversary of a very, very horrific event that happened in Paris in 1942. And so this is being set up because they're probably doing the event tomorrow. Usually it's on the Sunday close. And we're going to go to another little spot over here, end up at another little spot where um, the garden is. And there's some flowers sitting there, but I didn't see any that said that was from the president of France. So I'm wondering if maybe they're doing it tomorrow. And there was nothing on the news today. Usually, when he does this, it's always on the news. So it's usually on the Sunday closest. So maybe they're doing it next Sunday because today is the actual event. But walk up here real quick because there is a very beautiful statue monument here. Oh, maybe they're actually taking it down. Oh my God, it smells so good. I wish you guys could smell this. It smells so delicious. I could smell all of the flowers. So that really touching and beautiful monument there is dedicated to the victims, and it was done by Walter Spitzer. He did this and gave it to the city. It was inaugurated on July 17th, 1994. And he was a young man from Poland. Oops. He was a young man from Poland. He was born June 14th, 1927. And while he was in Poland, he was Jewish. And at 16 years old in 1943, he was deported with his family. His family was all sent to a camp. His mother tried to escape. She was killed. His brother and sister and his father were also killed. And he had one sister that did happily survive through all of that. But in 1945, he was released and he moved to France. And when he moved to France, he became an artist, and he dedicated his entire rest of his life to do nothing but to do these creations and monuments dedicated to the Jewish people that were killed and also that survived that horrific act in World War II at the hands of the Nazis. So it is really, really pretty. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit on it for you. But it's all of it's just so heartbreaking. It's families huddled together, um, the child there with their suitcase and the baby doll. It just is really, really heartbreaking. But I love that the fact that he was an artist and did this whole life. He died in October of 2021 of COVID, which is even sadder. But so they must have. Well, it looks like they're putting these things up. I get horrible flashbacks. Well, maybe they're taking it down. But usually it's on the news, and I looked today, and I looked in the online papers and everything, and I didn't see anything. Maybe they did it yesterday. But it is right here too, because just right around the corner, a block away, is where the velodrome was. And the velodrome was first built by the gentleman that actually owned, he was the editor for the Lato newspaper, and he had an idea to for publicity for his newspaper to start a little bike race, the Grande Boucle, or as we know it, the Tour de France, which is happening right now. And today they're going to the top in the Alps to a place my grandpa loved. So I'm hoping to get back to see the end of it. But he created this velodrome, and he did it so Henri Desgarnier. And if you look closely at the each winner's yellow jersey, there is a very fancy little D on them, and that is all for Henri, who created that. But he had that idea. So then he decided he was going to build this velodrome. And so they were going to use it for the 1900 World's Fair. They used it as well for the 1924, the Summer Olympics, which is amazingly 100 years before the next time we have the Summer Olympics here. And he had it, and this was right here. So it's pretty much right in this exact spot. And what happened on July 16th and 17th, 1942, I'll wait to take you in there because there's a lot of people going in there today. But what happened on that day was horrific. And so all of these Jews in Paris were sent a ticket, and they then around on that morning, they were supposed to do it on the 14th, but then or the 13th, and then they decided, well, that's too close to the national holiday, even though during the occupied years they did not celebrate the 14th of July. So they thought, oh well, we'll just wait. And so this was carried out by actual French policemen. So the French policemen would go around to these homes if the people didn't come and bring their little ticket to turn in. They would go to their homes and bang on the door, and they would bring all the family out. There were some people that were lucky enough that didn't have to come if they were too old or too young. But even if they had children, they all had to come. They could come with 2 shirts, a pair of shoes, and a blanket, and that's all they could bring with them. And they rounded up 13,152 Jews in Paris by French police officers. So they picked them all up, and then 5,000 of them, if they did not have any children, they instantly sent them put them on buses and sent them to Doncy, and they went there and would end up getting sent off to a camp. And then the other 8,000 people were sent here. So they came here to the Ver, which is what Valdev, what people call it, and short for Velodrome. And they were brought here, and it was a huge, huge venue space because they would do everything. They would do huge bike races in there, and they would also do roller skating. But they'd also have circuses and boxing. And Hemingway would come here when he was here in the 20s, and he'd bring Sylvia Beach here to come and see these boxing matches. And so they brought them here, and there was 10 bathrooms in here, and only 5 of them were working. This is 8,000 people that were here. 44% of them were women, and another 23% of them were children. And they were just in horrible, horrible conditions. There was a big glass roof, but they painted over it in black when the Germans took it over, painted over in black. So they were just basically in the dark. Some people were able to escape, but well over 300 people actually committed suicide there because they knew exactly what was going to happen and where they were going to go. They were there for 5 days. And after 5 days, they were shipped off to camps. And out of those 13,000 people, a little less than 80 people came back to Paris, came back to their life. And the rest of them completely lost their life, killed. So it's just a really, really horrific event. But I also think it's very important to share these events. Because I think that's the least we could do for some of these people, especially since They died at the hands of evil. And there's still a lot of evil in this world, if not maybe even worse. And it's just hidden behind something that doesn't look so evil. But it's important to know these stories, even though sometimes these are really, really difficult. So they created this little park. They tore down the whole entire building in 1959 when there was a huge fire. And then they started every year on July 16th. They started doing a event here, and so they did this first under Jacques Chirac, and he came here on July 16th, 1995, and he made a speech and said that this was, this was definitely, there was the hands of the French are in this, but he didn't go so far as to really say that. But he was the first one to actually openly suggest. And then, but in 2017, Macron at a speech, he came in here and really put the nail on the head and said this was the act of the French that did this. And so it was good that he finally actually, somebody finally said that. But the garden was created that same year in 2017 when he made that announcement. And there is a plaque. You can see the outside of what the structure once looked like. And so you see there's the viaduct right there. And so there we are, right here on the side. Yeah, it's really, I got over here a little early so that I could see it, just sit here for a few minutes before I brought you guys. But then there's even here, it says, it says right there, the 13,152 Jews that were arrested. 4,000 of them were children. It just was, I mean, just horrible. So there's 4,115 children in there, and they created this plaque, this wall in here. And the wall has 4,000 names. Oh, good, nobody's here right now. So there was quite a few people. I think they were doing a little presentation, but you can see all the flowers brought here today. I almost feel weird even being in here taping it, recording it, but there's little plaque de Jacques Chirac. It's just, I mean, look at all those names, all of those names, 4,100 children that have families that, and they have their ages on it, 4, 7, 9, 13, 3, 2, horrible. But since this last year, they also added these in here, and these are pretty amazing. And I actually want to just spend more time standing here reading them. But look at how all of these things. So these are all people that died. My dear Claude, I'm writing to you these last lines to let you know that we're going to leave soon. I'm writing with a heavy heart because I cannot express to you my feelings. Here we are preparing ourselves for the sad trip. When you receive this letter, we probably already will be gone. I can't read it anymore then. But look at all these people. Look at that cute little thing. All because of hatred. Oh, look at her. I mean, she is the life of the party. Even has where they live. Ouch! Sorry, that was a vine. Look at this one. Ellie and Aline. Look at this little, a whole life ahead of them. They never got to see. Oh my gosh, look at this one. Look at that cute little pumpkin. Jacques. The whole entire family. They were also, everybody was separated when they got here. So here it says their parents, Abraham and Sadinla, were deported first on convoys 2 and 6. Denise was deported alone on convoy 21 on August 19th, 1942. She was only 5 years old. Look at that cute little thing. She looks like my friend Catherine's granddaughter. And then this is, this beautiful little statue here. All the yellow stars. But these are really, these are amazing. If you do come, I mean, you saw how close we are to the Eiffel Tower. Just walk down here and kind of have a nice little quiet moment. I think the least we could do is just read all these, even though they're heartbreaking. Look at her. I mean, just to come here and be terrified, and then you're separated. You're separated from your whole family. Oh, look at that smart looking family. His older brother Joseph escaped from the police station. He is one of the pillars of our organizations of sons and daughters of Jews deported from France. How amazing is that? Oh, look at this little guy. You see that one very well. Yeah, it is pretty. It is pretty. It's pretty sad and heartless. And we don't. People that are in power don't know, don't look at history, or they don't think it's going to happen again, or they're just too arrogant to think that that is what would happen. And it just happens again and again. I mean, it happened in the US with the Japanese in World War II. Then you have everything happening at the borders in the US, and then other tons of different countries around the world, Armenia, all of this, where they just, it's just horrible. Just, but the fact that, like, look at that cute little guy, Jacques. He was deployed, his parents were deployed on 15 and 16 convoy. He was deported on the 25th, in 25th, on August 28th. But you could just go through here and see all of these names. I can't imagine coming here and seeing a last name that you had. But they have the mayor of Paris. But it's just incredibly, incredibly sad and heartbreaking. And I wish they did a, had a way to tell people to come down and see this, or that they should know to come and see it, because they really should. But you could check this all out. Oh, there's even a little QR code. I'll take a picture of that and I'll put it on my Patreon and the thing, so you could see, because the information on each of these shows are collected at the Shoah Memorial in Paris. It's another really beautiful museum to go check out. Um, it's very somber. It's very sad. It's really close to the edge of the Seine and the Marais. Um, and I've gone there a couple of times when they had an exhibit about art that was stolen by the Nazis. It's a very somber, quiet place. You can't take pictures or anything, but I just think it's kind of important to go and see that stuff. So, all right, everybody. So I'm gonna leave it, next to this garbage can, but I'm gonna leave you guys. But thank you guys so much for joining today on something I think is just really important to see. Um, And also today was really sad. Just a couple hours before it's getting ready to come over here, it was announced that Jane Birkin died, and Jane Birkin was the love of Serge Gainsbourg. She was 76 years old. She was a singer. She was British, and she had been canceling a couple performances in the last 6 months or so. And it was announced today that she died, and it's just really sad. So every French person um, has it online as something I wrote. I wrote something about her before because Jane Birkin is also where you get the name of the Birkin bag. Is she's because of her we have the Birkin bag. And so I just reshared it on my Instagram. So you go in there and read that. But she's also the mother of Charlotte Gainsbourg. And I love Charlotte. She's also a fantastic singer and actress. Jane was also an actress as well. That's how she and Sarah met each other. And her daughter Charlotte, who have seen a couple times walking around near where his home was and what they're turning into a museum opening in October. So I've seen her a few times, and I'm always like, oh my gosh, Charlotte. So I think she's just absolutely awesome and amazing. So thank you guys so much today. And I would turn around and say hi, but I'm sure my hair is a disaster. So I will thank you guys so much for coming. Tomorrow on the podcast, we're going to share some stuff about the bestie, a lot of the stuff that we talked about last week on the walk. But check that out for some more info. And Yeah, so it was great. Thanks. Oh, hi Byron. Thanks for being here, Sharon. Thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate it so much. And so I'm gonna go. I just got the message that it said it's in the last 15 minutes of the tour. So I'm probably not gonna get back in time, but I'll catch up later. Then we gotta record some more of the podcast. And so thank you guys so much. Hey, next week I'm not going to do one because next week is the final day of the Tour de France. It's coming into Paris, and it's a huge, huge thing that I've wanted to do for probably 15 years now. And it would kind of coincide with the time of the walk. And so I just want to be able to be there and soak it all in and be in the moment. But I will make lots of videos. I'll take lots of videos, and I'll put some special ones on the Patreon in the on the Patreon so you guys can see them just for you. All right, guys, thank you so, so much. And have a wonderful day. And thanks for joining me on this one because I think it's really important. Thanks, guys.